Alright, getting everything set up and ready to go now. Everything's on Odyssey and set up and ready to go. I just have to wait for it to pop in, hit refresh on there, checking the audio, find out how everything sounds. Wait for it. Odyssey sounds good. YouTube is up. Odyssey and set. Audio sounds good. Alright, getting everything set up and ready to go. Okay, I got X going. Odyssey, or the audio sounds good. I'll do the post. Live to go. Okay, I got X going. Odyssey, or the audio sounds good. I'll do the post. Live to go. Okay, so that sounds good with audio. Got the post on X set up. And now I have to go into Rumble for the Storyteller on there. Checking audio to Rumble. Sounds good. And now Twitch is also up and running. Audio to, and it sounds good as well. So we have everything set up. I am going to go ahead and mute out for now because I want to go get some coffee and take a quick smoke break, and I'll come back and we will start the show. So thanks for everybody who shows up, and I've got a little bit of extra background music so that you guys can listen to it, so here, I'll put that on. Yeah, I should have done that on my actual sources for OBS and the vertical sources. That way I could do a fade in, fade out. So I apologize about how quick that ended. With that being said, I will get on with the recording and stuff. I'm going to record this while I'm live streaming. I did my audio checks. Everything seems to be working out pretty good. So let me, while I'm live, audio sounds good on Odyssey. And said, I will get on with audio sounds good on YouTube. I'll trust that X is going good. Everything sounds good on Rumble as well. Been having some strange things taking place on Rumble, so I really don't know for sure how good that is. Been having some, so it's sounding good on there. Good that is. And it sounds good on Twitch as well, so we're good to go. Only thing I need to do is turn the video on, the audio visualizer on YouTube and everything. So just so you guys know too, that took me a long time to find that. That's a actual audio visualizer for live stream, and I was able to get that from Mark off of Dragus Production, and I'd like to thank him for helping me find that. I've been looking forever for that, so that was actually a big find, so I appreciate that. So today is the final day for my outlines and for my outline and my plot. So after this, I actually start going into writing. Before I start talking about that, I should probably hit record. I'm going to record this, and it'll be posted later on the Storyteller, so you guys can check it out again later. So let me do my countdown, and I will start recording. 3, 2, 1, now. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Storyteller. I'm Roger Hanson, and today I am going to continue with my my streams going further. So far we've been doing the plot, and this is where we end up getting into the outline part of it. Now, a lot of people don't really do outlines when it comes to just general storytelling. They always usually just do the plot and they go on from there. This is something that I enjoy doing, and the reason for that is because when like I've been saying, this is actually the first time last year and this year where I have actually wanted to do a plotted story. But even though I never did a plot in my stories, I always did outlines for those stories. And I thought about it, and even though most people don't really do outlines for stories, they just do the plots, I decided that I was going to do my plot side by side with the outline, so that I can have both, you know what I mean? I can have a plot for my short stories, but then I can also outline it and be able to do that, you know, at both of them at the same time. Now this story was one of the stories, or it was one of the stories that I first started doing back when I was younger, but I never really was able to finish it, and it was a lot longer than what this is going to end up being. this is one of those stories where I started writing it and I never put it down, and it's changed dramatically from the time whenever I did it. I started writing it back when I was 17 years old, and this version right here is pretty much has absolutely nothing to do with the original story that I started out with, which I'm fine with. But at the same time, I did do my outlines like I was talking about, and never did a plot. So with this one, what I wanted to do was make the story, but do it in short story form, in a series. So I did the first one with Zuthra, and from that one I went on to do this one, which is about his wife, Tiana, and this is basically about Tiana's tale of ambition and power. That's what it really comes down to. And last week I was talking about how it opens up different areas of the story for me, and it gives it a solid foundation to go off of. But then later on, I also stopped and thought about it, and it made me think or realize too that there's other characters that I do want to bring up in this series, okay? And it has to do with the hybrids that I've been mentioning on here. Now, I was inspired by the concept of these hybrids from Forgotten Realms, to be honest with you, which is a role-playing game. And in Forgotten Realms, they have a being that is down in the peninsula of Cholt, and they're all serpents, okay? And what they do is they use drugs as in the underworld to trade among the humans so that they can entice them into becoming basically drones, slaves, and then they kidnap them and take them to Cholt, where they work as slaves for them, and they also transform them into a hybrid form of reptilian and human. And that's what inspired me to bring those aspects from from Forgotten Realms into my story. I'm trying to keep it to where it's its own distinct entity and away from anything that's pertaining to Forgotten Realms. But it also fits in with a lot of stuff that I've been getting into in other areas. Like I really do enjoy the stories of the Naga from ancient lores, and I've been doing research on it, what little I can do, because it's hard finding people who are Hindu or Muslim, or not Muslim, but Hindu or freaking Buddhist, who are willing to talk about the Naga. And that usually whenever I talk to them about it, they always refer me to somebody else, you know what I mean, because they don't want to. So I do my research into those areas on my own, and I've come up with some pretty cool stuff from that too, like that's what I wanted to incorporate as well. So like in Cholt, the basics behind that is like it's a real dense forest where you don't even see the sky because the trees are so high and there's so many of them that it blocks out the sun. And there's sinkholes everywhere, that fall down into like underground rivers that runs for miles and ever, underworld, an entire underworld, and that brings more areas that I could go into too as well, which also goes into the Nagas and the lore there. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to introduce those aspects into this story. Now, just so you know, all of that's lore and it's role-playing games, which yes, I am, or I was, I guess you could say, a role-playing geek. I love doing it, but just to let you know that this is not, it has nothing to do with that. I also have stories and research that I've done in ufology as well, which relates to reptilians, but none of this relates to that, only in the sense that I want to incorporate aspects to it, of it, into this story. So this is all just going to be like purely my imagination. So it with aspects of it. So you're gonna get like a story written in fiction with that's influenced by lore of different types, you know, which other people actually have written about in the past. So I just wanted to get into that, you know, and state that so that I can make that clear. But it introduces me into, or it allows me also to open up about these hybrids, and this is probably something that I probably should get into as well, because like I said, this story is not going to take place in the same time span. Okay. First, I wanted to do Zuthra. Then I wanted to do the Draco. Instead of doing the Draco right after Zuthra, I went into Tiana's story next, and that opened me up to these hybrids. And with that, I can introduce the hybrids into the story properly as well, and I thought that was pretty cool. Now, I do want to get into the Draco after this, but like I said, with this, I can somehow get it to where it's introducing the hybrids to where it can be a part of the story as well. And for me, I'm glad with that, because it's something that I've been having an issue with. It's like I said before, Tiana was a complex character that I had to introduce into this story, and it really took a lot. And as time went on, the story itself took it took on a life of its own. You know what I mean? So I started writing it out, and as I did, the story started changing. And that's what's happening here. You know, the story is actually taking on a life of its own, and it's starting to change, because now, after introducing Tiana to the story, which I wasn't going to do, that also makes it possible for me to introduce the hybrids into the stories. And the inspiration I got from Forbidden Realms was from a group of people called the Tainted, and that's what they were. They were basically tainted with the blood of the, oh god, I forgot their names, but they were the reptilian species in Forgotten Realms. But it was mixed, their blood was mixed with the humans, which created the tainted. So with this one, I'm not going to start naming them the Tainted. They'll have a different name, and they'll have different aspects to them. You know what I mean? Different traits, things of that nature. But that's where that inspiration came from, and it now it's taken on a life of its own. The story is, so that's something that I thought would be cool. You know. So with that being done. I'm also going to mention, like before, like in the last episode, that there are certain things that I'm going to give up when it comes to writing the plot to the stories. The first thing that I'm going to give up is the freaking theme stated. it's, well, first of all, to be honest with you, when I did Zuthra's story, it just seemed tacky. You know what I mean? Just out of the blue, somebody who's insignificant, states this theme, and then at the end of the story, the theme is brought up again, and it's like that aha moment. Um, and I understand it. You know what I mean? I do understand the whole concept of it, but I really it complicates a short story. First of all, like, I'm writing a short condensed version of what I really want to write, so it takes up space that I could actually put into something else, you know what I mean? Because there's topics in here that I have to put into like 1 page long or 2 pages long. So with that, I had to start actually cutting down on a lot of this stuff that I want to incorporate, which is good discipline when it comes to writing, because I've never done that, and I've had a hard time with actually writing short stories. So with this one, I'm actually, getting into the habit of being able to write short stories and pay attention to some of the things that need to be focused on. So now with this one, well, the bee story too is another thing that I cut out as well. With this one, I went ahead and decided that I don't want to do the bee story to go along with it. Last time when I was on stream, I had completely forgotten to mention the. Well, let me find it. Yeah, I had completely forgotten to mention the. Oh my goodness! I cannot believe I can't find it. Oh, it's okay. Here it is. Yeah, I completely forgot to mention the the debate that goes before the catalyst, and I do apologize for that. But just so you guys know, I did put the debate between the catalyst and at the end of it, before I go into break into two. So, with that being said, just to let you guys know, I did add that in. I can even do the plot, I guess, to kind of go over that. But it's not really that big of a deal, to be honest. I just forgot to add it in, which I did this time. So, with that being said, it comes to the first part, which I do have on the video. I've started using text to go with it for PowerPoints, but the prologue. Now, I added the prologue in because, and this is the first time I've actually tried to do a prologue. Even last year, whenever I started doing plots, I only went into Act 1, and I never did a prologue for it. So this year, I'm incorporating a prologue, and I'll start with what I'm going to do. Now, with Tiana in the prologue, what I want to do is introduce her as a once cunning leader, where before becoming a puppet tyrant of the Draco, Tiana ruled over people and fought in battles, you know what I mean? She was a very cunning leader, and what I want to do there is I want to describe her leadership and the things that she did, and this is during the prologue. And also after that, I want to go into to some of the battles that she was a part of and things of that nature, so that it gives more depth to her story and stuff. And it talks about what she was like before she was actually, a tyrannical leader, puppet, ruled over by the Draco, you know what I mean? So that's what I want to do. After I'm done with that, I also want to focus on her thirst for blood and power, and how it drove her into a world of isolation and madness, So that's in the prologue. Just and I don't want to get too in depth with it. I just want to kind of bring it out, at the beginning in the prologue of the story, so that people have an understanding of that. And I do want to dive deep into her madness. I guess that's one thing I do want to do. Um, and how she how her mind becomes obsessed basically with the desire for torture and death, and how it grows, because I want to make it clear that Tiana is just pure evil. You know what I mean? Like, there is no part of her that's actually, good whatsoever. But even in her mind, though, she doesn't see it that way. And that's kind of what I want people to envision when they read this story. That this is one evil person, and when I do that, I want to discuss like the bizarre experiments taking place. The ones where she's calling humans her human followers, so that frickin' they can be used by the Draco to mutate humans into hybrids through genetic research and stuff of that nature. With that, if you guys haven't, if you're not into ufology, that's where the inspiration from ufology comes from, with the genetic research. Instead of it being through the blood and drugs being used, I'm doing it to where the drugs are still there, but it's turning them into mindless slaves. But they go from there into being culled and used as for genetic research. You know what I mean? Where they can slice the genes, or splice the genes and create a being that's half human and half reptile. So that's all from ufology. And like I said, this isn't like a part of the ufology lore. This is just going to be purely my imagination that goes into it. So now, also, whenever I get into that area, I wanna discuss shadowy places and shadowy people who begin to surface around Tiana, while she's slipping into isolation and going mad and stuff of that nature, so that I kind of set a tone for it. You know what I mean? I'm just wanting to focus a little bit on the shadowy people, because, like I said, this is the prologue, or the prologue. So I want to focus on it just a little bit, and then I also want to get into a little bit of a discussion about Tiana begins to picture herself as a martyr and a god, because I want to emphasize the whole thing about the absolute power and things of that nature. And then once I start talking about her thinking of herself as a martyr and a god, I also want to kind of allude to her, how she begins to separate herself from those people that she used to call her people. You know what I mean? I've mentioned it in last stream, but I've gotten it a little bit more organized because of the outline. It's making it easier for me to see where I need to put this stuff in the story. Because when I write these plots, it does a pretty decent job of telling the story, but where does this stuff belong in the story? You know what I mean? When I do the outline, it kind of straightens it all out in my mind, to where I know, okay, this needs to go in this area, this needs to go in this area. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm doing, as I'm reading right now, I'm telling you in the order of where all of this is going to go in the prologue. You know what I mean? So what I've discussed now and where I'm at is where I'm at in this, so I'm not going to have a conversation about it again. You know what I mean? So right here, Tiana begins to separate herself from those she once called her people, you know. Now, with that, I want to emphasize how she starts seeing her followers as nothing more than objects, you know, just things that she can use and nothing more. Just, just a way of her to use them in order to gain power, or um, help her in her with her desires for bloodlust, and torture and stuff of that nature. Um, and this all is eventually going to go into her isolation, and how it reaches a point where she's not only physically isolating herself, but she's escaping into her mind, and her mind is just full of madness. So she's having like inner turmoil. That's where the whole inner turmoil starts getting added into the story. And then, like, when it comes to how she starts behaving, with other people, that starts introducing like the moral decay, where she sees people as just objects and nothing more. These same people that she once thought of as her people, which they weren't really great by any means. They were pretty evil themselves, but like she doesn't even care about them anymore. It's more about just the moral. It's just more about using them in order to get what she wants, power and stuff of that nature. So there's that moral decay. You know what I mean? She's just slowly falling into moral decay. Now, what I also want to mention is, and I'm not going to go full depth into this because this is just the beginning, but I want to also talk about her ruling as a tyrant, and how her followers begin to fear her, and all of a sudden the sounds of rebellion starts. You know what I mean? So, like I was discussing before in the previous episode, she becomes tyrannical in her rule, which she goes from being a cunning leader into a tyrannical freaking overlord, basically. You know what I mean? And her followers begin to fear her. So out of fear, they start questioning their loyalties to her. And I'm not going to put all that in this part because that goes later on in the outline. But I'm going to kind of go through that, you know what I mean, and discuss it a little bit. And then from there, I'm going to talk about how her followers split allegiances. Some believing that her madness is an omen from the Draco, because her followers start not only they believe that the Draco are their gods. In my last story, they were talking about that with the Soma. The Soma turned them into blind slaves, basically, and they would do whatever the person who controlled the drugs wanted them to do, just as long as they have the drugs. And that goes into this one because they start thinking of the Draco as gods. And now her followers, the same ones that are dependent on the drugs and they're thinking of Tiana as their leader, they start believing that she is a god, and they believe that it's an omen from the Draco, that shows proof of her divinity as a goddess. So now all of a sudden she starts feeling as though she's a god, you know what I mean? And that kind of seeps into her madness. Now then it also goes into the other aspect. While they see it this way, others begin to fear her, you know what I mean? and that will eventually lead into people who start whispering about rebellion and stuff of that nature. Now, after I'm done at that point, what I want to do is I want to focus on the isolation and the madness, and how it gives followers the sense of fear, their fear for Tiana and her rule. Okay, and then they start discussing. They they start to question her rule. They start to question if she's actually the one who should be ruling, because they see her as being mad. So you have two people. You have some that think of her madness as divinity, and then you have another group who just thinks of it as madness, and they start to question how well she'll be able to rule over these people. So now I also want to make it to where soon the followers who were left behind in Lycia, because in the first one it was a mass exodus and all of that, which I had in my first short story. But after, there were some who stayed behind, and these were people who believed that the Draco were their gods, and eventually became subjects of Tiana, who became a puppet leader in place of the Draco. Now, these guys who are still there, they debate on fleeing like the people from the mass exodus did, or go into an outright rebellion. Okay, and that's what I'll be focusing on with the prologue. And I'm not going to like dive into it, because I want to also go back into the subject later on as I write this story. So I've got the prologue done right there, and this is where I get into what's referred to as Act 1. Okay, now within Act 1, there's the first part of Act 1 is the opening scene, and that's going to be a 1 page long, because I only want to do this short story at about maybe 10 and 12 pages, so I'll pick 11, and I want to do 1 page, which is just the opening scene, so that it creates a scene at the beginning of the story. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to open the scene with the crumbling remnants of the Lycian Empire. You know what I mean? I wanted to describe the dark skies that loom over these once great cities, and get into that, just describing it, all right, to where people can picture it in their head that that's what this looks like. Then I also want to describe like the crumbling remnants of cathedrals and grand buildings that were, once held in reverence among its people and stuff like that. Kind of bring out the whole scene, so that people can picture this is how the story starts. It starts out with the picture of a crumbling remnants of the Lycian Empire, and these buildings are all crushed beneath their feet, kind of stuff. Now, after I do that, what I want to do is I want to show Tiana sitting on a makeshift throne, which I had mentioned before. And this, I was debating on if it was going to be made of bones or not, but then I was like, what the heck, let's go ahead and make it to where she's sitting on a throne, a makeshift throne, bones and stuff, so that we can do that. And I want to make it to where it's in a dimly lit throne room that's filled with like shady people, so that it gives you a sense of bad juju, you know what I'm saying, stuff of that nature. So give me a second real quick. Alright, so I'm back. I had to go do something real quick. Now, what I was saying there at the beginning, or at the end of it, was that I want to do this to where do the makeshift throne with dimly lit throne room that's filled with shadowy people. I also want to bring out the term Tiana's eyes betray her a flicker of madness. Now that's a pretty cool thing that I do want to put in there. I think that'll fit in pretty good. Um, and I also want to bring out the whole thing about shadowy people that surround her, because that's what I want to kind of get at that moment, is the sense of shadowy, evil kind of setting, to where people can kind of see that as happening, because this is the opening image, you know what I mean? So that's what I'm wanting to go for when it comes to this opening image. And it's only one page, which means I'm going to have to make sure that it stays to a minimum. Can't get too descriptive over it. So now once I'm done with all of that, I also want to kind of start talking, writing into the story about the oppression of the remaining Lycians, the people who were followers that stayed behind, and like how the oppression just lingers in the air, and kind of bounce off the thing about the followers being cold as food sources for the Draconians. Then also talk a little bit about the strange experiments that are being done, with these last humans, and the whole thing about splicing reptilian DNA into human DNA and stuff, and then kind of going into hybrids and things of that nature. So now this is probably something that I might change, because even though it's in Act 1, it's the opening scene. I might go ahead and put these into the setup, which is the next part, but I'm not quite sure. It might be a good idea to do, because I also want to talk about Tiana's people being used for slave labor as well. So that would probably not be something that I'd want people to see in the opening image. So if nothing else, I could put that into the open scene, which is supposed to be the first thing, kind of like a snapshot of the way things look. So after that, I go into the setup, where I can actually put it in there if I wanted to, and I have 2 pages to work with as well. So that might be the way of doing it. Now, with the setup, I'm going to use 2 pages, and the first thing I'm going to start talking about at this moment, it might change, but the first thing I'm going to talk about is about after the fall and mass exodus of the people from the Lycian Empire. And I'm going to mention how Tiana is installed as a puppet leader for all the people who remain behind, which I was just talking about, From then on, I can go right into Tiana's obsessions, and how they're being revealed, and her, things like her lust for power, and how she has a thrill when it comes to torture and stuff of that nature. But also I want to bring something else up that I don't know if I brought it up in the plot. I may have brought it up, but I want to also bring out the fact that she's remaining in a blissful state of denial, where she's seeing her followers as still being loyal to her, but in reality, there's whispers of rebellion that are beginning to emerge among these people that were once her followers. because like I said, they're going to split into two. There's going to be people who are loyal followers, and then people who become fearful of her and start questioning her rule. So, and all the time, she's just like in a blissful state of denial. She doesn't see that. She still sees herself as this leader that all of her followers are loyal to. So that's something that I do want to get into. She also sees herself as a strong leader with loyal followers, you know. So that's what it is. She's seeing in that, and all the time she's fallen into deeper madness, you know what I mean? And this is where I'm going to bring up her madness is revealed because of the experiments that began to take place for the Draconians. So, like, she's sitting there and she's seeing herself as a strong leader with loyal followers, but with her doing these experiments, which her people think of as barbaric, she's slowly showing these people her madness, you know what I mean, and the things that she's willing to do for power. So that's where I want to go with that, and I think that'll end up doing a pretty good thing. I also want to, at this point, start bringing out, you know, how she's driven by a sense of superiority over her people, you know, her followers and stuff. She begins to demand absolute obedience from her subjects and stuff of that nature. I don't really want to go that much farther at this point. This is just the setup, you know what I mean? So I just want to start talking about how she's wanting to demand absolute obedience from her subjects, and like with the experiments, how her people see it as barbaric, and they're starting to see her madness being revealed because of her cooperation with these experiments. So that's where I want to go at this point. But then I also want to shift between the people who are still following her faithfully, and then the ones that don't. But in this part, I'm going to stick with the ones who are still following. And then in the catalyst, or the dark turn, which is 2 pages, I want to bring up the ones who are fearful of her rule and are wanting to are starting to whisper rebellion and stuff of that nature. But here I want to go into those who follow Tiana faithfully, and how they begin to think of her as a deity, and they create all these altars of worship in her name, you know, things of that nature. Then I also want to talk about how her followers see her unpredictable outbursts as like omens from the Draco, who they consider to be like their gods, you know what I mean? But they consider her outbursts as a sign of divinity. And ambush and power quickly starts to overtake Tiana. Take over her, overtake her mind, you know what I mean? And she starts to believe that she actually is a goddess and deity, and that her madness is a sign of divinity. So I want stuff like that to take place. I think that would make a pretty good part of that, because like with the setup, we can. I wanted to start it out with the things about her followers, but then we come to the catalyst, which I want to do another flip side to it, and that's the dark turn. That's another word for it. And like I said, it's going to be 2 pages long, and this is where I start getting into stuff that results because of unpredictable outbursts from Tiana. You know, her advisors, first of all, and and then her followers as well, they begin to fear her rule. Like I was saying, they become fearful of it. Not only that, she isolates herself from her people. She becomes more enveloped within her own madness, and she starts isolating herself physically and mentally from the people around her. Now, this will bring us into what is. This will bring us into her inner turmoil. Okay, and that's a really good part to put into the catalyst or the dark turn. Well, this inner turmoil, it persists within Tiana's mind, and like I said, she begins to isolate, not only physically but emotionally as well. Signs of Tiana's madness begin to present itself uh, among her people. Okay, now this is going to cause them to question their loyalties. So all of a sudden they start questioning their loyalties because signs of her madness starts showing. You know what I mean? And they become fearful, and then they start getting into they start getting to the point where it causes them to question their loyalty to her and how she is, and if she is somebody that they want if they actually want her to be their leader. You know what I mean? So that is that's where you start getting the people who are whispering revolt among the crowd. So you got them breaking up into factions and stuff like that. And then I also want, with that, this is where I want to start talking about Tiana's sudden, unpredictable outbursts in front of her advisors. And how it shows that the madness within her mind is surfacing, and she's doing it more and more. So she has these outbursts that are happening, and these are in front of her advisors and her freaking subjects, and these people are seeing it. So all of a sudden you have one of two camps. You have ones who believe that these are signs of divinity that are following her, and then you have signs that are, you have others who see it as a sign of madness, and they start becoming fearful of her and questioning if they want to follow her or not, or if they want to rebel against her. So then that's where it comes into play with the debate. Now this is what I forgot to do last week, and in last week I had the debate set up and ready to go, but I ended up forgetting to do it, and let me go ahead and pop these up. They should have already been popped up, but I have no idea why they weren't. But anyhow, the in the plot, what I had for the debate, I can go ahead and read that, and then we can do. Well, actually, the debate, I believe, is the same as what this is, because it's really not. Well, actually, it is different. But in the debate, rumors spread among the populace about Tiana's increasing violent methods. Some former loyalists began to discuss rebellion in secret, igniting a flicker of hope among the oppressed, which that's not going to work out like that. You know what I mean? That's just some cheese. So I'm gonna write it a little bit better than what I had it. Now with the debate on the second one, I said once followers of Draco and subjects of Tiana factions grow within the people, debating on whether or not they rebel against their tyrannical leaders or flee, leaving everything they know behind and traveling to unknown regions, or staying and fighting to the bitter end. That's what I did on my own right there, to where I could um, update it and bring it up to task. Because once I looked at that, that was kind of cheese. That was real cheese. So I believe my plot is in here somewhere. I just gotta find it. Yeah. Yeah, I found it. So yeah, the debate, I ended up doing that, and I believe I also have it straightened out to where it's in my outline. Yeah, I just had to figure out where I put it. I separated it from the file that I had it in. Now in the debate, like I said, that's got to be 2 pages. So I have a little bit of information there, and I'm going to work on breaking this down into more on my outline and being more precise about it. So what I want to do first off is once follows the Draco, the subjects of Tiana's faction grow. Followers of the Dracos and subjects of Tiana's faction grow within the people. Now this is where they start debating on if they want to rebel. And there's factions, which I was talking about, different factions that are breaking down within Tiana's followers. There's ones that freaking believe that she's like a deity, a goddess, and then there's those who fear her because of the tyrannical rule that she has. So I want this to be split up into where it starts focusing on these factions, and then I want to talk about those who wish to rebel, how they debate on whether or not they want to rebel against Tiana's tyrannical leaders, or if they just want to flee, and that is something that I want to do towards the end, to where it'll create this debate in the story, to where it'll give people, a chance to see that there is some kind of conflict going on there that needs to be resolved. They have to decide if they want to fight in a rebellion, which is most likely going to be their bitter end, or if they want to leave everything they know behind and travel to like unknown regions, and or if they want to stay fight to the bitter end. That's the 2 choices they have. So that is kind of what I've been wanting to do with this story so far. I've only gotten to the debate, which is pretty big. It's actually halfway through, and like I said, tomorrow I'm actually going to start writing the story. So what I'm going to end up having to do is continue on my outline, going from break into 2, which is the turning point, and that's going to be two pages long. And then I'm going to go, after that I'm going to go into the finale, and that's going to be the end of Tiana's rule, and that's going to be like 2 pages as well. So I'll do that, and then the closing image, which is the opposite or which is like the open image, and that's going to be one page, just like the open image is. And while I'm doing that, I will start my writing up, and I will be able to go over both the plotted outline, which I've already done the plot, but the outline, I can go over that, and then maybe go into the story a little bit more and talk about how the changes are that I took and did. As I said before, when I did this outline, I started through it and I realized that there are some places where things had to be moved around and shifted. If I'd written the story the way the plot was set up, then there would have been things that were mentioned at the wrong time. In my opinion, it wouldn't have been very. Wouldn't have been orderly. It wouldn't have things put in place according to when they need to be mentioned. So I really do enjoy doing these outlines. It seems to give the story a little bit more structure, and that's the one thing I do like about it. Not one time did I even change it from the prologue to the opening scene, or the set, or did I? Or the settings. See, I have all these cool freaking letters and stuff here, and I wasn't able to use none of them. That's messed up. So I'm going to go ahead and use them now. There we go. So I got them. I put them on there, and that's what I can do. I could probably take a quick freaking snapshot of that later after the video's done and use it as a thumbnail for this episode. What do you guys think? So I have put in 56 minutes and 30 seconds of video here. I think I did a pretty good job with the stream. The stream is actually an hour and 8 minutes, which is mostly me doing sound checks and putting some cool music on. So with that being said, I'm hitting 57 minutes. I think this would be a perfect time to end the stream, and thank you guys for watching. If you guys want to leave a comment or make any comments about what was discussed here, feel free to do so. I love feedback. I appreciate it if you guys do. I really do like having conversations in the comment sections too. I like that even better than live stream chat, so feel free to leave a comment for me and some feedback, things of that nature. It's a great way to get to know each other, and stuff like that. So with that, I am going to end the stream, and